Hi, I'm Alicia.
And I'm Robin, and you're listening to Bowel Moments,
the podcast sharing real talk about the realities of IBD. Served on the rocks. In this episode, we discuss college and dating with IBD, the best emergency restroom options, and the Bachelor franchise with Samantha Golden. Sam is a pediatric nurse, one half of the super fun Instagram account Wonderful Wives, and lives with ulcerative colitis. Cheers.
Welcome, Sam.
Thanks. So good to be here.
We're so excited that you're one of our first guests, which means sadly your episode's probably going to be crappier than future episodes, so our apologies in advance. But you were definitely high on our list of people to invite because, frankly, we just both think you're lovely and wonderful and are going to be highly entertaining. So thank you.
Well, crappy is like what this is all about, right? So I'll take it. The crappier, the better. So let's just start it off super crappy, set the tone,
That's right. We'll invite you back for the 1-year anniversary, right? And then you'll see how much we've grown and matured.
Yeah.
No, but
Yeah, no.
I mean, give us some credit, Robin. I think we'll get better.
Well, I think it's great so far. So, we'll just keep it rolling.
Super. So typically we start this out by just asking people to tell us a very quick and dirty version of your IBD story. So we're going to ask you to start there.
Okay. So when I was 16, I was diagnosed with what at the time they thought was Crohn's disease. And I was a teenager and it sucked. And I thought my life was ending. And it was pretty horrible. And then when I went to college, it was even worse because I was in college and I was like, oh, I should join a sorority, which like, if you know me, was like not me at all. Like if you could see my face, like what I look like, you'd be like, you did what? And I joined a sorority.
Because I was like, you are the
I was like,
it was
plot
honestly
twist.
awful. Yeah. So no, I went from Alaska to University of Georgia, knew nobody. And I was like, what's a sorority? Like, oh, a group of friends? Like, that sounds cool. And then
in Georgia?
Honestly, like, look at me. Like, I'm such a lesbian. So that like, but I was like, I want a group of friends, so, and in the rush ceremony, they sang like a Wicked song a cappella. And I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Like, these are gonna be my best friends for life. And then like, as soon as like I'm initiated, it's like, yeah, let's party. Let's like fuck guys. And I'm like, oh shoot, what did I get myself into? And then like, but to fit in, like I drank a lot. God, I hope my parents don't hear that. And so I got like really ill and I had to like drop out of UGA and be housewife for a long time. And that was just like the start of my roller coaster IBD journey. But then finally I became a nurse, and I guess when I was like 24, it just like got to be too much. I was just like missing work, and I had missed school and basically all the things, but now I was missing work, and when I couldn't work on my own, like that wasn't really doable. So I was like, I'm just gonna, then I ended up going to the Mayo Clinic where they were like, did a whole workup, and they were like, actually you might have ulcerative colitis. So maybe we could just remove your colon and like cure you. And I was like, well, I don't really have another option. I like ran out of the meds to try. So then I got a colectomy and a J pouch, and it was 3 surgeries, and it was terrible, but I'm through it now and I'm cured. But I think
air quotes. There's air quotes there.
Yeah,
cured.
Air quotes. Yeah. Yes, yeah, air quotes cured, because. And I sometimes I feel some guilt when I like see like my fellow IBD people like who are like in the hospital or like battling their medications, and I'm like, I've been there, but now I'm through that. But I feel there's like so much that stays with you and will stay with me for life because of all that. So I don't know. I'm very grateful to be where I am today, but it was like a long, hard, nasty, crappy 10 years. And so, yeah, but I still like to stay like pretty active in the whole community because it's a huge part of me. So camp, team challenge, nursing, I don't know. It's important to me.
I have a question for you, because this is, a lot of IBD patients are misdiagnosed or misdiagnosed several times. And I was misdiagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and it just got changed to Crohn's 2 years ago. And when you said that you were originally diagnosed with Crohn's and then they said maybe it's ulcerative colitis, I was like, wait, that doesn't happen. I don't know if I've heard of anybody else that's happened to. It's usually ulcerative colitis first and then Crohn's. How did they, what led the Mayo Clinic to say, oh, well, we think you just have ulcerative colitis?
So the Mayo Clinic was actually the ones that diagnosed me with Crohn's the first time. So basically what happened was at some point in a scope I had, they saw ileal backwash, so like some inflammation in the small intestine, in the ileum. And so if you see that, if it's anywhere in the small intestine, like, oh, well, we have to say like this is probably Crohn's because we can't rule it out because we saw that one time. So that was on my chart and it followed me forever, and they treated me like that. And I guess, like sometimes people would say it's like indeterminate colitis, but once you have the Crohn's diagnosis, like that kind of eliminates like the colectomy as a cure. So people are really hesitant to go back and say, oh no, like it's ulcerative colitis. And honestly, when I got the surgery, it was a gamble. And they were like, we could be wrong and you could end up having a permanent ostomy. But at that point in my life, it was like, whatever, a permanent ostomy, like anything would be better than what I had. So it was definitely a gamble. And so far so good, I guess, with the probably ulcerative colitis. Yeah.
That's how I feel too. But I found out after they removed my colon. They're like, oh, so we took your colon out, but might be wrong and you might have Crohn's. So we're not going to build you a J pouch just in case it is Crohn's. And 18 years later, ta-da!
Oh no.
So,
yikes.
When I saw that, I was like fascinated. Wait a minute. You have to tell me more about this. Why would they, do Crohn's first? So wait, Alicia.
Yes.
Next question. Is that why you're a nurse?
Yeah, that was going to be my question did that really kind of inform your decision to do nursing?
Yeah, 1000%. I had zero interest. I wanted to be in high school. I wanted to be Tina Fey in 30 Rock. Like, I was just like, I was the editor of the yearbook and the newspaper and like president of Model United Nations. And I was like, I'm going to like be some badass, like female CEO, like I'm going to run the world. And I want to be really like funny and on TV. But when I was hospitalized after drinking myself to near death in college, which is the first time I was hospitalized, honestly, there was like, I'll never forget one nurse, her name is Maria, and she saved my life. Like, I was just so depressed. I was there over Christmas and it was terrible. And she called me on Christmas Day. She was like with her family on vacation and she called me in my hospital room just to like say hi and say like Merry Christmas. And then she like brought me Golden Girls and which is great because now my last name is Golden after I got married. But yeah, she brought me Golden Girls and she would like force me to get out of bed and walk. And like, she really just changed the way that I thought about the world. Like before I was very self-centered. And I mean, I still like, just because you're a nurse, it doesn't mean you're like the best human in the world. You're not an angel all of a sudden, but like, it made me want to like redirect like my life to giving, like helping others, like feel some sense of like worth and like, it's going to be okay. Even if it's not like really okay, but like, I don't know. But then, and I hated kids. I hated kids so much. Like my parents, like they were like so shocked that I went into pediatrics because when I had to babysit my nieces and nephews, or like one time I got a babysitting job that I got fired from because it was like, I was so bad to these kids. But then, so here now I'm like a better person now as a 18-year-old or 19-year-old. And I'm like, I'm going to like give back. And so I looked up, like IBD, like whatever. And then I found, the foundation's website. And then I went to Camp Oasis for the first time. And then I was like, oh my gosh, kids are awesome. Specifically sick kids are awesome. Or, like kids with like, that are going through something are awesome. And like, I guess all kids are awesome, but like, especially those kids. And so then I was like, well, shoot, I want to do pediatrics. And so, yeah, I mean, if it weren't for my IBD, I don't know, I might be a CEO, I might be making more money, but I'm really happy now. So it all worked out.
Yeah, it seems like it should. And yeah. And as somebody who doesn't have kids, I can understand the whole, like, ooh, not sure about them. But yeah, you find the right niche and you find the right kids and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is cool. I can hang out with these guys. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. The other thing that I'm curious about, because you mentioned sort of as you were figuring out your life as a teenager, which, as they say in Texas, bless your heart. I think we all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you have to sort of go through dating and figuring out that you don't want to I guess, can I say
guys
you don't have sex with sorority guy or you know, frat guys. So talk to us a little bit about dating and sort of what that was like, having then suddenly have this disease as part of your sort of journey, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, in high school, I don't think it affected me too much because I wasn't super sick then, even though I felt like it was the end of the world. But I was more concerned with like the fact that I had to go to the doctors and I had to worry about insurance and bills and like things that just you'd never think about when you're that age, which now are still like ridiculous and the healthcare system's broken. But anyways, yeah,
Yes.
amen to that. But when I was in college, it was hard. I mean, my personal opinion, and I'm like open about everything in my life, and so with dating and romance, like I was 100% upfront, and I actually think like in all my relationships, people were like drawn to me because of, I could say like, wow, there's something that like I went through, and I'm like, you know, I'm a deeper person than just like, oh, that's great, like my favorite band is blah blah blah. So you know, so I think it was I might have, you know, I had some game because of it, maybe. I don't know. But then once you're in that relationship, yeah, it can be definitely hard because at sometimes I felt really needy. And then it just so happened like when I was getting my surgeries and I got the colectomy and then I had an ostomy for the first time, and my like girlfriend at the time, like it wasn't going so well. But I took her like losing interest in me as like, is it because I have an ostomy? You know, like, is it because like now like I'm undesirable and I'm like gross? And yeah, that was like super hard. And having an ostomy, I mean, like to be fair, I only had it for like 9 months of my life, but that was so hard, like body image wise. And then to feel like all of a sudden you're not attractive because of it. But that leads me to, you know, when I found like the right person and being 100% open about it, it's okay. But still, you have to address the things like, okay, like when I go to the bathroom, it's going to be loud and it's going to be messy, you know, and like, sorry if that turns you off, but like, I hope it doesn't, because that's going to be every day of my life, 10 times a day. And you're going to hear it because we're poor and we live in tiny apartments where the bathroom is like right there and there's like zero insulation. I mean, I swear, like when I buy a house, there's going to be a soundproof bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
Multiple bathrooms. That was my thing. Yeah. Like we have to have at least 3 bathrooms. I need access to a bathroom at all times. And my thought was a little bit different. I'm going to be going to the bathroom often. Please don't ask me, going to the bathroom again? Please don't ask me that, because the answer is yes. It's always yes.
And then as you know, like, okay, so I don't know if anybody has a J pouch and they like can understand this, but like when it fills up, you got to empty it. And sometimes it's just full of air, right? So sometimes you just need to push all the air out. So unless like in the middle of the night, this is in the middle of the night. So in the middle of the night, I don't want to get up to go to the bathroom like 10 times. I'm just going to push out that air to make more room for the poop to come down and fill up the pouch, so I don't have to go to the bathroom as much. So my wife now, I love her. She's perfect, but she every single night gets mad at me for farting in bed. And I'm like, I have to. You cannot give me any more crap for this. Like, but every time she does it, and I'm just like, I have an illness. You don't understand. So, you know, it's still hard, but.
Surely you can blame the dog for some of it, right? Like.
Right. Yeah. Well, honestly, whenever I worked at camp or something and I let out like a really stinky fart, I would be like, oh my gosh, that kid, like, they're gassy, man, that's a bummer. Especially if it's like a dance or something and like everybody's really crowded together, you're just like, oh my gosh, who was that?
Yeah, like, I don't know, somebody shouldn't have had the beans tonight for dinner.
Seriously.
Yeah, so that was going to be my question, because like I mean, second only to Prince Harry, you might be the happiest, like most in love person I've ever met. So I mean, like that, I think that's so wonderful. And I have to tell you, I celebrate the fact that like you are so giddy in love that it makes me like a little bit nauseated and like also so happy all at the same time. So I'm like crying, but also like, God, stop it with being so ridiculously cute. So that's
yeah.
awesome.
What was the question there? It's true.
The question is please tell me how to recreate this. Because listen, after this many years of marriage, sometimes you need a little tips. You need some tips.
Oh, are you with a man or a woman? Because like it's a pretty easy fix.
Does it matter?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but you know, we just really like, honestly though, like just a lot of vulnerability. And that goes back to like, we on our first date, like I told her about my IBD and everything I'd been through, and I met her like just after I got my surgeries, and then she told me about her crazy life stories that like honestly top mine, and I'm not gonna like share all her secrets, but I was like, wow, like this person is deep, like they've been through something. And I think that's something like, as a person with a chronic illness and specifically IBD, like it makes when you find somebody else who has also been through stuff, like you will connect so much. It doesn't have to be the same, like it doesn't have to be like they like have IBD, but you will connect so much more with them. And I think that's been a huge gift in my life. Yeah, for sure. Justine's great. Love her.
No, I agree with you though. I think there is something to that. Like it doesn't have to be a shared experience. It doesn't have to be the same thing. And even within our community, like as somebody who has Crohn's disease still can relate to somebody with ulcerative colitis, even though there's very different sort of aspects to the disease. And I think you're right. Like it's having that connection of you know, you've been through the shit, but you got through it and you've learned and you're stronger people because of it. I think that's really key to sort of
snaps. Not very well, but snaps to that.
So, okay, you mentioned camp, and you mentioned you like want to be involved in the community and giving back and stuff, but you also mentioned Team Challenge. So what is that? What did that do for you?
So this was in like Statesboro, Georgia, which is like nowhere near the Atlanta team. So I didn't actually get to train with anyone. So I trained by myself, but still just like it gave me a reason to like move my body, which I think for somebody with a chronic illness and IBD, like sometimes we feel like so weak and down on our body, just overall, like not necessarily fatigue, but you're just like, I'm broken, I suck, my body sucks, like why are you failing me? And so to see that I could run a half marathon in the end of it, slowly but surely working my way up to that was huge for my like body self-esteem. And then to go and run the race with all these other people that also like went through similar things and had gotten themselves that strong, it just made me see like, wow, like first of all, I'm not alone. And also like we're so fucking strong. And also I met Sean Lowe from The Bachelor that year in Vegas when I ran it, and so it was the best time of my life.
What year in Vegas was that? What year?
Oh gosh, was that 2012 or
That's
13?
the first year they did night race.
Yeah,
I was there
so
too. I did that one too.
Oh my gosh, what? Yeah. Crazy, small world.
I didn't meet Sean Lowe though.
Oh my gosh, she was so cute. But anyways,
I do have to say, of all the Bachelors, he might be sort of one of my favorite ones. He does seem like the most sort of normal.
Yes, so genuine. So genuine, so normal. I love following him on Instagram. They're so cute. They're a little family.
He's also one that actually got married to the person he picked, which is like there's 3 of them. So
okay, but honestly, like a lot of them are still together. I will battle anybody who says The Bachelor is not a legit franchise. They're looking. Okay, not everybody's really there looking for love, but a lot of people are, and the success rates aren't that bad when you look at like national divorce rates. So. Anyways,
it does put it into perspective for me, and I do have to say one of my guilty pleasures from this pandemic and quarantine has been watching The Bachelor in Paradise, which is definitely a hot mess, but also so delightful. Robin is shaking
so many successes.
No,
Robin, no, you can't knock it until you try it.
I have been forced to watch reality shows like those by my adult daughters, and did you hear how I just slurred daughters?
No.
I try to like be there with them and have them tell me what their favorite characters in there, and I just
characters. They're real humans.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
they're finding love.
It's a character, and I'm just like, I want to be their mom and just be like, stop it. You're on television. People are watching you. Behave. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But they can't.
But now they're
not allowed to do anything but drink. That's the problem. So it's all very manipulated. It is manipulated, but I don't know. I'm with Sam. They're not characters, they're people. They're just manipulated people.
Okay.
They're being forced. They're being forced into a character role. How's that? They are not characters, but the editors are making them, the show editors are making them seem like a one-dimensional character. Is that better?
Sure.
I'll let it slide. We'll move on.
And Sam, you and I will have a separate Bachelor podcast later.
Thank you.
All by ourselves. So one question I have for you, because now you've lived any number of places in the United States, and so you've had a chance to travel around and see the best of the best and probably the worst of the worst. So now living in Alaska, like, do you feel like is this more of a rural healthcare system that really kind of that you're dealing with, or do you feel like your IBD care has any differences now that you're in a place that's maybe a little less populated than mainland United States?
Yeah, well, I honestly haven't had to deal with anything up here so far, so I haven't seen anybody. But when I grew up here, because it's where I grew up, and I needed to be hospitalized, they had to ship me to the Mayo Clinic. So because there just there wasn't specialists that were like, I mean, there's GI doctors, don't get me wrong. Like I saw a GI doctor, but it got to the point where they're like, we don't know like what to do. So. Right. And so my dad was in the military, so I was in a military base. And so they sent me on a plane. They packaged me in a box and they took me to UPS so I'm like so sick, and they put me on a plane with my dad and then a nurse, just like a nurse from the med surg unit I was on. And he had his like giant bag full of like meds, and just on the plane, I had a PICC line, and on the plane, he's just like giving me meds, like on a commercial plane. Like it was the weirdest experience. And then there was a snowstorm in Minnesota. It was like the worst, or Chicago. It was like the worst snowstorm in years. So we got grounded there. And like, and I was like, I remember we had to call the paramedics, and I was in this airport closet, and they were like hanging bags of saline, and my nurse was just giving me things, and it was the sketchiest thing. And then my dad rented a car. He cried. The line was like so long to rent a car. All the flights were grounded. And he like went to the front of the line and he cried. And he's like, my daughter's like, she needs help. Like we have to get her to the hospital. And so he got to the front of the line. We rented a car, and then we drove through a snowstorm to the Mayo Clinic. And when I arrived, I was like probably half dead. And my nurse was all out of his bag of meds. And it was like, it's extremely wild the way that all went down. So yeah, like this is rural. This is like scrappy medicine out here. But I mean, now I'm working out here, like in the healthcare system, and we can treat most things. But I think when I was working in Denver, like any kid with anything serious, like if you have any sort of condition, please do not move your kids to a rural area, because we would get things from like flight, you had to fly them in from way out of wherever. And no offense to like rural areas, because they're doing the best they can with what they have, but you just want to be close to legit, especially pediatric, services. But even adults, like if I had anything, I would not want to be out in the middle of the boonies. It's scary.
Yeah.
So.
And I used to, in a previous job at a previous organization, I used to do a lot more information referral, and I'd get people that were asking for like doctor referrals, and and I used to sort of joke with people that you don't take your cat to the mechanic, like you take your cat to the vet, you take your you go to the person who knows this best, and so yeah, yes, a lot of our community GIs and our general practice GIs are doing great jobs and great work, but they don't have time to be an expert on every single thing, and there's so many GI disorders that can happen. And so, you go to the person that really knows this disease best, because you want to be able to get the latest and greatest. And it's one thing if you're like you said, you have controlled ulcerative colitis, cool. Then you just need scopes and and maintenance, that's fine. But like, if if it's complicated and stuff's starting to go down, it might be time to go see somebody who does this for fun.
Yeah. No, but I mean, traveling is so hard. When I moved from Denver, my first like travel assignment was in Reno, and one day I've gotten really into running, like longer distances, and one day after I ran like a half marathon just at the gym, like while watching TV, and then I went to I could feel some weird, like, just like I do. No, I mean, I don't do that all the time, but sometimes. So then felt some weird sensation, but I was like pushing through. And then I go to the bathroom, it's just like straight up blood coming out of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Like, and when that happened, like it had been a while since since my surgeries, really, that anything like had been wrong. And it was crazy, like how that feeling of like dread and like doom, just like a wave just like came over me again, like, oh no, like my pouch failed and I'm gonna have to get surgery again, or I'm gonna have to be in the hospital, I'm gonna cancel my life again, and like all this kind of stuff. But of course it's like 5 p.m. and so I'm calling everybody. I can't get a hold of anyone, you know, any of my previous doctors or doctors in the area that I just Googled. And so like my only option is to go to the emergency room, which would be great, and is a great option, but I had really bad insurance. So to go to the emergency room was going to cost me like $500 just to go. And so, I mean, I did, because what else are you going to do? But then, you know, the bleeding, they basically told me it was like ischemia from exercising too much. And then I actually got a hold of my doctor, and he told me it's, what is it called? Basically the point, like, because the pouch, this fake rectum, you know, there's a lot of scar tissue there because they cut it all up and they sew it back together, you know? And so scar tissue like impedes the blood flow. And when you have a lack of blood flow, you bleed, which is like a weird phenomenon. But it's called ischemia. And so when I was running so much, and it's happened several times since then. So when I run too much and like my blood's going everywhere else in my body, you know, to like pump my lungs and my heart and all that kind of stuff, there's not as much blood going to the pouch. And so it now, and it happens every now and then, which like isn't good for it, but I like to run. So I'm figuring that out. But again, this is another example of like IBD.
You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, it's not gone, even though it's kind of gone. Yeah.
Right. Well, and like you said, it's sort of, no doctor is going to be like, by the way, here's this quirky little thing that happens. You know, it's just you have to go spend $500 at an emergency room and actually then call your gastroenterologist to figure out that this is just a thing, that this is how this works. I think that's what I find so interesting about this disease, is that there are all these weird, quirky stuff that like you don't know about until it's, like I had this obscure thing happen to me.
Speaking of IBD-related lung disease, anybody ever heard of that? Yeah, exactly. Me neither.
One person, I think, tell me like, oh yeah, by the way, I think you might be only number 2, but like that, it's been a long time. So
yeah, no, I mean, I had no idea. After it literally started immediately after I got my colon removed, I started coughing, and I was like, okay, like it's winter, maybe I have a cough, you know. And then it was like, okay, maybe they did something to my vocal cords or my trachea, like when they intubated me, but that was negative. And then I got like a speech eval, like to my swallow, like to see if I was aspirating. No, that wasn't it. And they were like, oh, maybe you have asthma all of a sudden. Like that would happen to me at 25, you know, randomly. And so they started treating me. That wasn't working. I like saw so many doctors over the course of like a year. And finally I went to an interstitial lung disease doctor, and he was like, oh, you have a history of IBD? And I was like, yeah. And I got my colon removed like a year ago, like right when it started. He was like, oh yeah, you have IBD related lung disease. And I was like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
But essentially, it's one of two things. Right? So there's like, it's so rare. Of course, I would get like the rarest thing. So it's so rare. So it's either that when I removed my colon, the body was like, oh, no more colon to attack. What do we attack instead? Your lungs. That's similar. So then it starts to attack the lungs. Or it's that I had it all along, like associated with IBD, but when I stopped taking the meds, it like presented itself.
Right.
Don't know, but regardless, I just like have a really nasty, productive, chronic cough and inflammation. And so, yeah, they don't know like if it's going to worsen over time, and my lungs will just be like getting worse. So far, so good. I just take a lot of like inhaled steroids because I don't want to go back on like immunosuppressants, which is the other thing you can do. So anyways, but like, again, you know, here I am, I'm like, I'm cured, like getting rid of this, no more doctors, no more like medicines, no more healthcare. And then like the universe slaps me in the face.
Whenever I hear someone with ulcerative colitis that has had surgery, because I have 4 inches of my rectum left, my ileum is connected straight to my rectum, no pouch. I say, careful. I don't want to burst your bubble, but there's always, you know, something. I'm about to be a Debbie Downer, everyone. But I always say,
oh no,
IBD misery loves company. I mean, it's there's associated inflammation in other parts of your body that you don't know about because your gut pretty much controls everything, feeds everything.
Yeah.
And I think we're learning so much more about that. I mean, there's so much more research being done about that sort of mind-gut connection and sort of how everything really does work together, and about how what they were talking about, your gut being your first brain. So if that's the case, then obviously if your gut's screwed up, then maybe there are other things that happen from it that we are just starting to figure out now. So I think that's, I mean, I realize I'm the only one that doesn't have IBD on this podcast. And so I think that's like, this is why this is such a fascinating disease. Like, these diseases are so interesting because they're completely different in every person. And like, we're just still learning so much.
Yeah, whenever I would have, for most of my career in nursing, I worked like in inpatient pediatrics, and I had a lot of kids that got diagnosed with IBD. And I know, like, whenever I said, sometimes the kids could have cared less, like they were just like angsty or just like couldn't care. But when I like would tell the parents and the kid, like, you know, I have IBD. And when I had an ostomy, like I'd show them my ostomy, especially like kids that were getting ostomies or had ostomies. And, you know, the parents would be like, oh my gosh, wait, okay, so like, tell me everything. Like, tell me like what to do and what it's about. And like, and I was like, you know, honestly, like I can tell you my story and I can tell you like what I have been through and what I know, but it's going to look so different for
Completely
you.
different. Completely different. There's just, it's similarities. That's it. Similarities. Alicia, one of the doctors that we both know, whenever I hear him speak, almost always he says, like I always say, if you've seen one IBD patient, you've seen one IBD patient. Every time I hear him speak, he says that. But it's all completely different. You and I both have had colon surgery. We both had 10 biliostomies. But, you know, our experiences, the foods you can eat are probably different than the foods I can eat. You know, I have joint pain now. Hello, joint pain. And now I'm anemic. Yay, anemia. You know, so it's just, everybody is completely different. Everybody.
I think what's great though is, I mean, the fact that you were able to connect with the families, regardless of whether the little kid was angsty or not. What a good role model to be able to show families that, you know, like, yeah, stuff is sucky right now for your kid, but like they can still grow up and have a life and have a career. And it's not going to be this thing that sort of has to hang over them, you know, and has to be this thing that sort of stops them from happening. And I do think it's really interesting. I mean, Robin and I have met a lot of people in the course of our time in the IBD world, and a lot of our folks end up in the healthcare community, and I think, you know, end up with healthcare jobs, and I think that's really awesome. Like, I can't tell you how many like child life specialists and nurses and, you know, and GIs that we meet that have some sort of connection, either because they have it or they have a family member, and I think it creates this really great community, and you are able to relate to people, and you're able to give families some hope, regardless of whether your disease looks it's gonna look different. It's gonna look different than that kid's, but you know, you're still able to give that hope to people. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, and that's why, like, you know, camp is so great, because it's just like empathy does wonders in all circumstances, but especially when you're going through like something so hard, like being diagnosed with something or living with a diagnosis that's just really difficult to manage, and to know that like you're not alone by any means. Like, the term GI kid gets a really bad rap because GI is so varying, and it goes back to like not everything's the same. And so, you know, as a nurse and as a patient, like I got profiled I wasn't a kid, I was an adult. But when you come in, I know as a healthcare professional, when you come into the emergency room with abdominal pain, I mean,
yeah,
that is, and we all know, like if you have IBD, you know, when you tell them in the ER, I have abdominal pain, they automatically like almost roll their eyes out of their head, you know, because it's like so non-specific. Like sometimes you can't prove why, you know. And so as a patient, a GI patient, a GI kid, an abdominal pain person, you get like profiled, you know, drug seeking and other types of things. And while I do believe like there is a huge psych component to GI, the brain gut connection, right? Like I've worked through my own psych things, like it's because of my bowel and probably vice versa, like, but it exists, it's real. Yeah. And, you know, having somebody that can say like, I know you're in pain, it's okay. Like, and even if you're not like in so much pain, like it sucks to be you. So that's painful. And I get that. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes that's pain, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like, you know, we ask like, okay, 0 to 10, like 0 being you don't hurt at all, 10 being like your limbs are cut off. Well, like if I feel like I want my limbs to be cut off because I'm so like just so hurt being in this body, like maybe that's an 8 and whatever, you know.
Right.
So
yeah, pain can be existential as well as physical.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, there are these components to every chronic illness, there's like, you know, anxiety and depression and mental health that goes along with it, because it is difficult to be mistrusted, and it's difficult to know that you're sitting in a room with somebody who doesn't believe what you're saying. I mean, that's incredibly weighing on you. And you're right, there's like, I'll give that an 8 right there, you know, just because you're like, screw you don't know what's going on. So
well, and usually like if you're diagnosed with IBD, it's after you've gone to the emergency room or the doctor for like XYZ, like for months, years, like maybe decades of like non-specific things where nobody really like believed you or they took it seriously enough to look into it. And I think that plays a role in it too. Like I have so many people that I tell them, you know, like what IBD is. And they're like, oh, like, you know, I am also like, I kind of have some of those issues too. And, you know, I've never really talked about it to anybody or I did, but they like didn't really do anything. And I'm like, okay, if you're serious, like you need to go in and demand you see a GI doctor and that they look up your butt. Okay. Like, you know, because we're missing it a lot of the time.
Yeah, but unfortunately you're right. I mean, because some of these symptoms that people are expressing are, like you said, sort of non-specific, and sometimes they're hard to figure out. And there are people that refuse colonoscopies or refuse to do certain things too. And so you end up it takes a long time for people to get diagnosed. I think a lot of the people we've talked to, it's you know, it's never their first diagnosis. You know, it was always way down the list of, you know, tests that they had. And that's why it's kind of funny to sometimes talk to people who are newly diagnosed, because a lot of them are relieved because they actually have a name. Like they have something that, you know, naming something is really powerful. So once you have that name, you're like, this is this thing, and now I can conquer it, or now I can deal with it, or now I can figure it out. So I think it's so interesting to talk to people who are newly diagnosed, because they're like, I've got something, you know, it's like, really,
it's not all in my head. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions.
I know. And I'm thinking we're probably at about the right time.
Well, wait, can I tell a story first?
Yes.
Okay, so at camp, I always like to play the game 2 Truths and a Lie. Do you guys know that game?
Yes.
Okay, so you tell like 3 things, and one of them's true and one of them's a lie. And so I played this game with like a bunch of like little girls, and everybody was kind of like in a bad mood and not paying attention. So I said my 2 truths and a lie, which was I have pooped in a river, I have pooped in a bathtub, and I have pooped off the side of a boat. And they all were like, what? Oh my God, gross, and whatever. But then they all were like, well, I pooped in my pants, I pooped in my bed, I pooped, and I was like, which one's the lie? And they're like, none of them. Like, and so they're all talking about their poop stories, which is like kind of my favorite topic. And as an adult, like we don't talk about pooping our pants, but I think we should, because when you like really dive into it and you like really ask people, literally everybody has pooped their pants as an adult, even, right?
Yes, I say that all the time. I say that to people all the time when they're embarrassed about having IBD and needing to poop. And if you've ever been sick, had diarrhea, whatever, like you're running to the bathroom, having accidents. But I tell people all the time, everybody poops. Everybody has pooped their pants. Everybody has.
Alicia, have you not pooped your pants?
No, I'm like reeling back like a good 20 years, and I cannot think of anything.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either.
Give me time.
Okay,
There's
but
still a chance.
The best time I ever almost pooped my pants was I was living in an apartment with 2 other girls, and somebody was in the shower. There was one bathroom, and it was like I was very sick in the middle of the flare. I had to go right then and there, and I was very like used to like maybe like pooping in a plastic bag or something, but like that gets really messy. And so I was like panicking. Where am I going to go? I have like 10 seconds and I see my cat. And I was like, oh my God, you're a genius. You do this all the time. So I run into like the sunroom or whatever, and I just squat and I poop in the litter box. And and my cat is up there like sniffing me, like meowing, like what the heck is happening in my sacred space? It was honestly like the easiest cleanup ever. So for all you IBDers out there, when you're ever in a pinch, if you own a cat, and maybe if you don't, just get a litter box, it's a perfect place to have an accident.
Well, and they have those the temporary litter boxes where like the litter is in it and then you just like use it and then like throw it all away.
They do have temporary.
Even that.
I would like to follow up with camping toilet. Also a good option. It's like a little soup toilet in a suitcase. I'm just saying.
I totally thought you said soup toilet. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Toilet in a suitcase, a camping toilet, like a little toilet that folds up and you open it and you pop out the legs and you have like a little bag you put in there. So also litter box or camping toilet.
Litter box. That's ingenious. But I can imagine your cat was like, because cats are so strange in general.
Right.
I'm sure your cat was like, I don't know that I like this.
No, he was definitely unsure.
He didn't want to come by you for a while, like you invaded his personal space.
No, it made us closer. Like he was closer to my scent, It's like, oh yeah, we both
shared a moment.
Used the same. Yeah, it was a moment. So no, it honestly, pooping your pants or pooping in weird places, like it's totally normal and acceptable.
Pooping in weird places. I have 20 years of pooping in weird places.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm sure you come up with too, like the best options for like when you're out and about. Like you had a selection, you have more than 10 seconds, and you're gonna decide where to go. I mean, I'm sure you sort of map it all out. You're like, okay, so Starbucks or
the best bathroom. Have you been to New Orleans?
Yeah, I have.
The best bathroom in New Orleans, Pat O'Brien's. Pat O'Brien.
What makes it so good?
Endorsement nor a sponsorship.
Right. This is not an ad. I mean, I'm from New Orleans, been going out in the city my entire, I would like to say adult life, but we know that's not true. I mean, I am from here. So when I was 18, the drinking age was 18 here still. So that's how old I am. But the bathroom is upstairs out of the bar, away from all of the bars. And it's like a full bathroom with stalls, and there's a restroom attendant. There is napkins. It's clean, so clean. Lots of sinks. I don't know. It's just.
So one of your best bathrooms has somebody else that's in there listening to you?
Yeah.
So here's the thing about me. Opposite of Sam, I cannot fart. I don't have the large intestine to trap air, so I don't fart very often at all. There's no air being trapped in my intestines, or very little air being trapped in my intestines. And when my kids were little, they thought that was hilarious. That is what they told their friends about me.
No, I'm so confused. Okay, because without the large intestine, at first I couldn't fart without sharding, right?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
So that was me at first. So when I first got surgery, I called my doctor up. I'm like, wait a second, like, can I not fart anymore? And he was like, oh yeah, that's a common thing. But I have trained myself to fart. It's a very delicate process, and sometimes it goes wrong. I'm not gonna lie. But you have to like hold the sphincter while pushing your abdominal muscles to move the gas.
You have
not let anything else out.
You have a pouch. I don't have that. I have my ileum connected to 4 inches of my rectum.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So you don't have any gas?
It doesn't build up a lot. I mean, I don't have because there's no place for it to build up.
Do you notice that you belch more?
If I'm drinking like a sparkling water, I will sometimes maybe with the cider, but if I'm not drinking specifically like carbonated beverages, no.
What about beans?
No. And I eat a lot of beans because it's one of the things that I can eat. No.
Wow.
I know.
That's fascinating.
20 years.
See, everybody's IBD is so different, right?
Indeed.
Oh, and now the conversation's devolving fast.
And on that note, Sam, thank you so much for being our guest. It has been delightful. And I'm sure we will have you on again just because we can only get better.
Right? Oh, wait, we have to ask the question. The last question.
You haven't asked the question, right, Robin? You do it.
Last question. feel like I'm being very loud right now. Sitting here in my back bedroom of my house alone, drinking, looking at a screen. Anyway, what is the one thing that you would like other IBD patients to know?
Have you guys seen the musical Dear Evan Hansen?
Not yet, but I want to so badly.
Oh, you should. And definitely just like listen to the music. I actually think the music is better. But there's a song called it's called You Will Be Found. And there's this like epic part where they're like, you are not alone. I shouldn't sing. But
you should sing.
Yes.
No, definitely not. But yeah, I love that song. And I think just knowing that like you are not alone and you're not weird and you're not disgusting, and like we all have things that make us different, but we're all like a part of this really big, weird, quirky, awesome family. And that it's been like 100% a positive thing in my life. I mean, okay, not 100%, but like if you're like looking at it like from above, looking down on it, not necessarily in the moment, because in the moment it can be so sucky. But when you look at the bigger picture, I wouldn't take it back. And it's brought me to like a super great community, which I think like that's what kind of life is about. If you know, that's what makes us happy. If you think about like the happiest people in the world, they have a really loving, solid community around them. So welcome to the community if you're just joining it, or, you know, thanks for being here in the community if you've been in it forever.
Awesome.
We're all in here together. It's great. It's crappy, but it's great.
Lots of crap.
Crappy.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, it was so nice to talk to you. It was so nice to have you on. And yeah, again, since you're basically, Robin was technically our first guest, but you are now officially the first non-host guest. So I think we can only get better from here. So we're definitely gonna have you back again when we're a little more polished. I don't know.
I don't think
already. It's awesome. But we'll have you again anyway, just because you're fun to talk to.
Yes.
Perfect. I can't wait.
Yay, thank you.